Okay, we have enough. I'd like to call to order the Thursday, December 3rd meeting of the Law, Building, and Code Enforcement Committee. Being present, committee members Hoey, Ginny Farrell, Owusu Ane, none, and
You're not saying my name.
myself. Trying to think who we're missing here. Let's see. No Sonia and no Mike O'Brien. If they come in. And Brett Williams is here. Brett, I asked you to come in because when Kelly assigned this, he just said law. I did it years ago, I believe, but I didn't know if there might be questions in public comment tonight, or is there anybody signed up for public comment yet?
No.
That's
And Michael Bryan's coming in right now.
okay. Also being present is committee member Michael O'Brien. So why don't we start off with the proposed local law N. And Brett, if you want to handle that, or
yeah. So chapter 363 of the code deals with vendors. 363.9 specifically deals with door-to-door vendors, and subsection C thereof makes kind of an oblique reference to licenses and states that in order to get a license to vend door-to-door, an applicant must consent to a background check. This request came to my office, I think from Danielle. She had several people come in inquiring about door-to-door vendor licenses, as I understand it. We do our background checks through the Department of Criminal Justice Services, or DCJS. Somewhere along the line, DCJS made us aware that our current law is insufficient. It doesn't meet the requirements. And since it doesn't meet the requirements, they've warned us that they're not going to continue to process background checks for us. But they did fortunately send us a list of requirements of what they want to see in a local law. So it has to contain, has to identify the specific license type or job title that the background check is being run for. It has to have a provision requiring submission of fingerprints and any applicable fees in the form and manner as prescribed by DCJS. It has to provide the name of the municipal agency and the title of the staff responsible for viewing the criminal history, if there is one that comes back as part of the background check. And then there has to be a provision stating that if the applicant has been convicted of a specified crime, we, meaning the city, must take into consideration correction law sections 701 to 703B and sections 751 to 753 of the correction law. It's very specific about those points, and those provisions are regarding, I guess, rehabilitation of people who have been convicted of crimes. It's the state's public policy regarding their encouragement of licensure and employment of people who have previously been convicted of criminal offenses, lays out some of the factors that should be considered. So, it's just letting people know that if they apply for a door-to-door vending license, that it won't necessarily be shot down just because they have some sort of criminal conviction in the past. DCJS did provide us an example local law from some unnamed municipality that checks all the boxes, and that's, let us know that's what they wanted to see. So our new local law, and mostly copies from that because it came from DCJS themselves, and it's what they want. Historically, chapter 363 has been amended by ordinance, but all of the DCJS literature on this refers to a local law, and they specifically require proof that the local law has been filed with the Secretary of State's office. So that's why it's being done as a local law this time around rather than as an ordinance. So are there any questions?
no, substantially the same as our original, but now we're just conforming to the way that they want it.
Yeah. We didn't really
And they want
take anything away from our original. We just added to it to bring it in line with the DCJS requirements.
And they want a local law because it's going to be proof that it's been sent to the Secretary of State.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Owusu has his hand up.
No?
My question is just more so, what are some of
He's
the,
not muted, he's not talking.
what are some of the businesses that have requested to go door to door? They're going typically on the average, and what percentage are the individuals who are interested in doing this?
It's not businesses per se, it's several individuals that were seeking door to door. So you have some startups and some people may want to go and sell their items and they may feel it instead of advertising or having a brick and mortar shop, it's more cost effective for them to target an area and then go to the, to the individual houses. And I feel like it's about 4 applications that we have been pending, waiting till the passage of local law in.
Thank you.
And years ago, there were a lot of people just going door to door, and under Chief Krokoff, he stopped it all, and they actually stopped doing the background checks on them because of the cost and trying to work that out with DCJS at the time. But so I'll make a motion.
Second.
No other question. Let's report out of committee with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I did have a question, and it ain't gonna impact what the vote was. This doesn't apply to like committee people going around collecting
No.
petitions, right? Okay, thank you.
No. Just selling things. That's what a vendor is.
Yeah,
Okay?
and it doesn't apply to deliveries where you order them like from a Chinese restaurant. It doesn't apply to that.
I don't believe so, no.
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Passed out of committee with a favorable recommendation. Next, thank you, Brett, for coming in. You going already? Thank you, Brett.
No problem. Have a good night.
Next, I'd like to take up, good night, Mr. Hoey's, in co-sponsors. I believe it's Councilman Doche, Councilperson Doche, and who else? Also, okay. Also, for the record, Councilperson Sonia Frederick is present, and Kelly Kimbrough is present also. Okay, so Mr. Hoey, this one is up to you. Go ahead. I believe we're just making it permanent.
Sure. And Judy, I don't know if you acknowledged Judy's on with us right now.
I did.
Okay, I saw her raising her hand. Yeah, so we passed this last September. We put a 2-year sunset on it because people were kind of nervous. This was a big step for the city of Albany. Back in 2010, I believe it was vetoed by the mayor, and they did not do an override. From what I've heard, there hasn't been too many complaints, some minor stuff. And I looked at the report that Michelle sent out. Looks like we've issued 16 permits with 74 hens. So we feel that Owusu and Judy and I felt that, let's try to make this a permanent. And, if there is problems that come down in the future, we can always, the council can always, change it back and make it that you can't do it. But we felt that, especially in the light of COVID, a lot of people are worried about their food source. And this is, we feel is a good law. So I'll end it at that.
Got a question for you. The existing law set a total limit, didn't it, for the city of number of chicken, of hen? I thought as a pilot, we limited it to a certain number.
I think it's the number of permits, not the number of hens.
Yeah, and we've come nowhere close to that. 60. I thought we set like a 75 limit for the whole city.
75.
Yeah, and we've come to 16. I'm only aware of one in my ward. I got a notification of one, and that was shortly after we passed it. That was on Rapp Road. I've heard no complaints. So because I thought they were passing to us all the applications in case we had a problem within our ward, and I didn't. So I'm aware of one, and I've had no complaints.
And I believe we're down one from the 16 now because I believe the person.
Brian Mascaro?
Yes. He's the one that had the hens next to the street railway.
Yeah, on Cottage Avenue.
Right. So we're down to 15. I don't think we'll ever hit the 75, but
Yeah.
I also, I mentioned this last time, but I think it's important to actually realize that this doesn't just allow hens, it also creates a process if hens are not being kept appropriately. Because I don't have any in my ward, but I did have somebody that was trying to keep hens in like cat houses, like, you know, the cat storage, cat carriers. Not cat, I don't have cats. And it was not a good situation for the hens. And I believe that those hens ended up with Scott. So thank you, Scott, for taking those. But because of this legislation, there was actually a process on what could happen with them, what was okay and what wasn't okay. And there were some standards. And so it actually helps on both sides. It protects the hens and it gives the people an ability to have them.
Ginny, just to let you know, there used to be a lot of roosters over in your neighborhood near Pine Hills Elementary School, and you could hear them all over the neighborhood, blocks and blocks away. So this is a good one.
Yeah, I'm not sad that there's no roosters.
The good old days. Oh.
Okay.
Joe,
Scott,
Joe, if I can just, I just want to emphasize the information we got from Rick LaJoy regarding this, who has indicated that the complaints he has received has been regarding unlicensed holding of hens, possession of hens, and that he is saying that this is having no impact on the work in his office at this time. And that, I asked the question as to whether or not there were any recommendations for any changes, based upon our experience to date. And he's indicating that he thinks that this is good legislation, and he doesn't feel the need for any changes to what we have done in the past. That doesn't preclude us from potentially evaluating that in the future, but I just thought if we're going to make this permanent, that now would be the time to make any tweaks that staff has identified based upon their experience. So that's a very positive report from him. And I just wanted to make sure the entire council or those participating are aware of that.
Thank you for doing that, Judy. Thank you. And Scott Kellogg from Radix. Do you have any comments on this evening?
No, Tom just asked me to come into the meeting and answer any questions. Sorry, that anybody might have. It's been working well on our end. We've had a MOU with the city about ways to handle, delinquent hens or hens that are out of compliance or ones that are not permitted. And just that one instance that Jenny Farrell mentioned where there were some that were brought over by the animal control, and we made some modifications to the MOU based on that. But that was the only instance. I believe that was last December. So other than that, everything's been running quite smoothly.
Great, Scott. Thank you very much for what you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I had my hand raised, but I just want to echo some of the sentiment that my colleagues made, specifically with Tom Hoey, especially in this challenging time that we're in. There are individuals who are trying to grow their own food. Individuals don't feel comfortable going to some of the big chains, grocery stores that we have here, particularly when you look at Market 32 or even going to Walmart. Individuals like to have their own source of food being produced right in their backyard. So I'm just glad that we did the pilot, and the results is, it's not surprising to me specifically, but I think that this is about addressing some disparities, particularly in communities that are having food deserts. But I think making it permit is a step in the right direction, and I wholeheartedly support making this permanent. It's going to change lives, and it has already changed lives already. There are individuals who are struggling, and because of having this piece of legislation go through, it was able to help individuals as it relates to their food source. I know there are some people who are in opposition to it, but I'm glad that we have data to support that this has not been a barrier to anyone. And these type of legislations is what make this city the envy of the capital region. So I just want to, thank Judy. I want to thank my good friend, my good friend Tom Hoey, for bringing this forward and all the work that he has done to make sure that we make this permanent. Thank you.
I'm still waiting for Tom to get his chickens though.
Well, he has about 10 acres, so he should be fine.
Right.
Do I have a motion? Any other comments?
I make a motion to move it out of committee with a favorable recommendation.
I'll second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous, 5-0. It's reported out of committee with favorable recommendation.
Thank you all.
Next, we have Mr. Conti's piece of legislation. Richard?
Yep, thanks.
Ordinance 45-122-19. It's suspension of special events during snow emergencies.
Yeah, this relates to snow emergencies. So I think as people are aware, when the city declares a snow emergency, they also publicize areas where residents can move their cars to get off the street, especially important in downtown neighborhoods where we have densely populated and have a lack of parking. And one of the areas that is publicized is Washington Park, where the interior roadways of the park are opened up as available overflow parking. So there's a problem and an inconsistency, you might say, when you have a snow emergency and you declare the availability of parking, but there's also a special event going on that utilizes those various areas for the event, and then would prevent residents from being able to use that. So in the issue here is the light show in the park, Capitol Hills Light Show. It's only happened, I think, twice during my time on the council, once during the Jennings administration, where we had a declared snow emergency while the light show was going on. And at that point, the mayor's office did intervene and they did suspend the event. But we did also have a problem last year when we had a snow emergency declared in, I guess, December. I think it was November, December. I forget when it was.
It was a year ago today.
I think it's like a year ago today.
Yeah, it was a year ago today. I was just posting pictures from it today too. So there was a problem in terms of residents not having access, being blocked from being able to park in there because the light show was going on, and so they were restricted. And until the mayor's office intervened, we were able to get access there. So this would provide, I mean, it's inconsistent because the very roadways you would park in are blocked. And also the show itself brings in a lot of cars and traffic to a densely populated area at a time when you're also being asked to keep off the street so as not to impede snow removal. And there's a lot of vehicles that go into the park and create other issues that would create issues during a snow emergency. So this would amend the section that suspends parking rules to also suspend special events to the extent that they would impede parking. I've been told also since last year, and as this process has moved forward by both DGS and the mayor's office, that this is the policy that they will pursue in the event that there is a snow emergency this year during the show, and that the sponsors are aware that if there is a snow emergency, there will be a suspension to allow resident parking. So this would basically codify what is now the policy as stated to me by both DGS and the mayor's office, so there wouldn't be any confusion in the past. And that's something that happened since this was originally introduced last year. I will say it is rare. I mean, the show itself only runs through around Thanksgiving to just after New Year's Day. So it is rare to have a snow emergency declared in that period, but in the event that happens, it just doesn't, the two kind of conflict, and this would codify what the policy is.
Good. Any comments? Kelly?
Yeah, so I take it Lenny Riccudi's aware of this, and
I sent it out, the notice, meeting notice, earlier this week. And also even before that, because the policy, was communicated from DGS and the mayor's office to them that this would be the, in the event that there was emergency, this is what would happen.
so like the folks who put on the PAL lights in the park are aware. Not only is it the existing policy, but it's going to be codified.
I don't know. I mean, I know Kelly's on the board. And he might-
Yeah, you can hear me. Lenny is aware. He's actually going to be at Monday's meeting, but the DGS and mayor's office, the policy you're talking about, Richard, it's actually right in the MOU for the contract.
Right.
PAL, that
It's supposed to be put in their special event permit or whatever they use.
Yeah, it's right. It's in there in the agreement.
So this does basically codify what already is the policy.
Yeah, but Lenny said he'll pop into the.
Right.
Well, I'm surprised he's not here today because, if I could just add, just from the face of it, I'm in opposition to. I'm in opposition to it. This is a wonderful nonprofit that does wonderful work in the city of Albany, not just for Pine Hills residents, for residents all across our city. And they don't ask the city for a penny. And most of their fundraising efforts are done with lights in the park. And to declare that they can't have an event in case of a snow emergency, I have some general concerns. I will tell you this, parking is a challenge for everyone in our city. It's not just a Center Square issue. People in the 10th Ward have issue with parking. People all across our city have issues with parking. So to legislate to cancel all special events and watch them park during a snow emergency, I generally have some concern. I'd like to hear from Lenny as it relates to his thoughts on it. But I will tell you this: can I finish? The Police Athletic League does not come in front of us. The Police Athletic League does not come in front of us asking for a single penny. This is one of their fundraising mechanisms. They service over 100,000 families in the city of Albany, and so to close the park on snow emergencies while this is their fundraising mechanism, I just have some concerns about it. I mean, closing it, how many families are not going to be able to get the services that the Police Athletic League provide? And that's something that I have some concern about. So right now, I'll be voting no until I hear further, information from the executive director of the Police Athletic League. I really don't feel comfortable in shutting down a park because of snow emergency individuals. I'm sorry that you have to walk 10 minutes to find parking in your neighborhood. Welcome to Albany. We live in the city.
Can we please enough? Sue.
Yeah.
You're kind of going over.
So hey, can I just? Okay.
This has nothing to do with the show. Maybe all these people that get towed should be sent to you because you're so concerned about people being towed.
So you're finished, Richard? You would like the floor right now? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to comment too.
And it's a current policy also already in the MOU, as Kelly pointed out. So you want to go back and undo the MOU?
It is.
What a pander tonight.
I will. Owusu, I'm in agreement with you. I have some of the same concerns that you do. That it is the largest fundraiser for PAL. It's the largest for doing the programming throughout the year. But also, you can't discount residents either. They're taxpayers and residents of the city. Also, there's got to be a balance.
I care more about the children than the adults that have to walk 5 minutes to go find parking. I care about the family. I care about the children more than I care about the adults.
Didn't you just say to me, let me finish, and you don't stop?
Well, first off, I was cut off, so I wasn't finished.
You were cut off.
Can I call the question?
Please let Kelly finish his comments.
Okay, and then I could talk. Okay, good.
And then I like to talk.
And then someone else can talk. Jesus. So yeah. So, but I mean, you have to weigh the needs of residents with, versus the needs of PAL. This bothers me. Also, I happen to know it is the largest fundraiser. We most of the programming throughout the year is run off of funding from Lights in the Park. But you gotta There's got to be a balance, and there's so few snow days, so few days, and so few times that this happens. So we might not have any snow emergency this year, you know, knock wood. But they're few and far between. So it's not like we're going to have weeks at a stretch where it's going to be shut down.
Okay,
So
Mr. O'Brien?
that's all I have to say.
Okay, and I'd like to comment too. A couple of responses. Number one, on the kind of weather that would necessitate a restricted, snow emergency, I don't think that lights in the park would be on anyway, because those are people who have to travel through those awful weather conditions to come for a recreational activity. So I think there's going to be less demand for it on those few days. And the other thing, excuse me, if there is a run of too many snow days, then add some days on the end of their season. I mean, that wouldn't be a problem. So in fact, they could wind up for the season with the same number of days as they had planned on. But I think it makes sense. In fact, I haven't spoken to Lenny, but I imagine from what I've been told, he would be in agreement with it.
Okay, is there anybody else
Yeah,
before Musso gets his last rebuttal?
Yeah.
Any other
Ms. Frederick
speakers?
has her hand up.
Yes. Okay, and then
Thank
Judy.
you. I just want to clarify. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I just want to clarify a point because Richard or Mr. Councilmember Conti, did you say that it was already in their contract that if there was a snow emergency, they would stop their services? So we're just putting it into city law?
Yes, and that's something that happened, and Kelly pointed out, it's in the MOU agreement with them. And that's something that happened as a result of the issue last year, so that the contract or the MOU for this year's show includes that provision. And also want to just note that the language in my ordinance says the cancellation would be to the extent that the event would otherwise restrict the availability of snow emergency parking. So there is some flexibility in there as well.
Okay, so basically, regardless of if we pass this or not, they still would shut down in the event
It's
of a
already
snow
in the
emergency.
MOU for this year's show, and this would simply codify that provision so it's not a confusion in the future.
Okay, thank you. I support this.
Times in 20 years, right, Richard?
Excuse me?
It's been like 3.
It's only happened a few times.
I think in
before.
my time, it's only happened twice. Once was last year. The other was sometimes during the Jennings administration. I forget how far back it goes. But also, I think Mike's point is pretty good, that if there is a cancellation for a couple of days, I wouldn't see a problem in adding additional days on at the other end when instead of it ending on January 1st, extended for a couple of days more to make up for that lost time.
Judy?
Thank you, Mr. Igo. So I've lived in Albany over 40 years, and I've experienced a number of snowstorms, sometimes when there hasn't, prior to us having a clear policy with regard to snow emergencies that didn't work out very well. It is essential for people to be able to have a place to park so we can get our streets clear and the roads can be passable for everybody. And essentially, as Richard is saying, is this puts everybody on notice as to what the policy is, what the provisions are, and it will also make it apply not only to PAL's event, but any other events that might have a similar kind of impact now and in the future. You don't know. And finally, having helped a lot of people on my block at times get in and out of their driveways, get unstuck in the middle of the road. This is a safety issue. And it's not only a safety issue for residents generally, but also those people who might say, oh, let me go to the lights in the park. And also for the people then who are volunteering there to be able to collect money. The number of people who should be going to that would be minuscule in terms of the financial impact on that fundraising event. I just see this all around as being something that makes common sense, just makes sense. So I'm not on the committee, but I will be supporting this if it reaches the floor. Thank you.
Any further comment before we go?
I would love to make a motion to pass it through with a favorable recommendation from the committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
I just want to have it on record. I'll be voting no. Thank you.
That's passed out of committee with the favorable recommendation. 4 yeses, 1 no. Okay. Is that it, guys? Do I have
Make a motion to end. Motion to end this meeting immediately.
If you want to do that, go ahead. Made the motion? I'll second it. All those in favor?
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank everybody. Have a good weekend coming up.
Thanks so much.
Busy week next week.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Night.